Good morning, class. Welcome to contact class for 2020, the Bachelor of Education for Senior Primary. And this module is for Agricultural Education 1, BES Age22. And my name is Abraham Sholongera, and I'm your tutor for these modules. And before I start, I would like to inform you that for any question or any clarifications, please feel free to contact me on the contact details here on top, with my cell phone number is 081-4438-360, or you can contact me personally on my email, which is now shektambavictory@gmail.com, for any clarification. Once again, I would like to say welcome to this module, which is Agricultural Education 1. And for these modules, I wish you all to be hardworking, dedicated, and self-driven students in this course. So I'm not going to cover, or I will not be able to present the whole content of these modules. So I will be just in brief, and I also cover some general guidelines that I want everyone to keep in mind when preparing for the April or May 2020 examinations. Just to introduce you to the modules, as we all are aware that these modules, this module, Agricultural Education 1, we will only look at how agriculture is important to us, and also how it's important to our economy. We will also look at basic soil characteristics, basic plant diseases, and then we also look at pests, weeds, then the importance of water and light to plants, and basic animal science, looking at how to take care of animals, then also look at the parasite, predators, and diseases. So these are all content that are covered in these modules. And if I have already said earlier that the content of the modules is bulky, and I will not be able to cover everything. So I will only cover some of the things that I believe that are more important to you when you are preparing for your examination. So these modules in general is divided in 7 chapters, which will logically introduce you to agriculture into details. Let us look at the first topic that I want us to cover this morning. I want us to look at the methods that are used to preserve food at the household levels. When we speak about preservations, we are referring at reserving food, or when you want to prolong food for a long period of times, or you want to prevent spoilage on the food. So there are some methods or basic methods that are being used at the household levels in order to preserve such food. And now at the household level now, food can be preserved in some simple ways as follows. Drying on fire to reduce water content. This can be done, for example, on meat. When roastings, or maybe you are baking, or you are smoking the meat. So it's one of the drying methods that can be used to preserve food at the household levels. Sun drying can also be used, or curing and sortings. So this is very important when, for example, in biltongs making. And another method of preserving food at the household level is milk. Milk preservation at the household level can be also done according to the following methods. Keeping the milk in the shade and not in the sun is very important. For example, in the household, more especially in the rural area. When you're in the rural area, so it's very important that you don't keep the milk in the sun, but try all your level best that the milk can be kept in the shade. The main reasons of keeping the milk in the shade is when you keep the milk in the sun, that will cause the flavor of the milk will be tampered with. And you also want to prevent the rancid of the milk. When we are talking about rancid, we are referring to some unpleasant smell or taste that are caused due to some chemical reactions. And then it will lead to some bad odors in milk. So, and then also, it's also important that you keep the milk in a well-ventilated place. And in most cases, you may also use cold water to cool the milk. You can, for example, put the milk container in a water bath or in just a water stream, or use ice to cool the milk. So these are one of the methods to preserve some basic food at the household level. So there are some other methods that you can also go in your study guide, and look at them into more details. Now, in your study guide also, I want you to look at or to read and understand some criteria that are considered desirable for any soil and also water conservation technologies. So as I said that I will not be able to cover everything in this content, but I'm referring you, go in your study guide, read and understand these criteria that are considered desirable for any soil or water conservation technology. So let us look at another most crucial important aspect in these modules, which is now weed. Weed, mostly we refer to it as any other plant that not desirable or that grow where it is not supposed to grow or where it's not desired to be. So any other plant that you find where it's not supposed to be, then that plant is referred to as a weed. Now, let us look at why weeds should be removed from those among valuable plants. Weeds can be removed among the valuable plants because in most cases, weeds can harm mankind by causing skin irritation. For example, maybe you say poisoning. Some weeds are like, some people are allergic to some certain weeds. Sometimes maybe when you come across some such type of weeds, you start to have skin rashes or itching and all those kind of skin irritations. Some weeds can cause hay fever, for example, the ragweed. And also, weed can also have pests such as rodents, ticks, or insects. And these are also pests that are also harmful to the plants. Weed can harm desirable plants by releasing toxins in the soil, which inhibit the growth of desirable plants. Weed can also harm the plants by contaminating the products at harvest, or weed also competes for water or nutrients, light, and space, making it difficult for the plant to grow or to live a normal health life. Harboring pests, insects, mites, vertebrates, or plant diseases agents. So that's how dangerous weeds can be if it's not being managed or if it's not being removed from among valuable plants. We are continuing with these topics of weed. So weeds can harm grazing animals as well by poisonings, and weeds can also cause off flavors in milk and meat, because we find sometimes if you slaughter an animal immediately after grazings and it have consumed or fed on some weeds, you find that even the flavor of that meat or milk sometimes can be tempered with because of that type of weed. Weeds may also become pests in water by hindering fish growth and reproductions, increasing mosquito reproduction, hindering boatings, fishings, and swimming, clogging irrigation ditches, drainage ditches, and also channels. And I want you also to go further in your study guide and also understand ways by which a plant responds to diseases. So there are 3 ways by which a plant can respond to diseases. But I just want you to go into your study guide again and read and understand these ways by which a plant can respond to certain diseases. Let us also look at the tourism value of plants. Trees and other living plants are valuable in many ways. For tourists, natural beauty is catalyst for increased tourist arrivals. Plant beauties or plant itself, it beautifies our surroundings. And also, plants also purify our air and act as a sound barrier. Plants also, as we all know, that it also produces oxygen, and in return, we produce carbon dioxide that is also used by the plant to process its own food. And also, plants also save energy through their cooling shade in summer. It also reduces wind in winter. Plants also have a dollar value by attracting tourists, as you understand that there are some valuable plants or plants that are just so precious. For example, in Namibia, we have what we call the Welwitschia mirabilis. It's a plant that attracts a lot of tourists in our countries, and it adds more values by that, and also contribute to the economy of the country. Plants are consumed by wild animals and keep them healthy and attract also tourists. Now, when you have animals that are healthy and good looking, tourists will be more attracted to such type of animals because they have consumed on those healthy plants. Garden visit also increases revenue generations. And apart from these tourist values of plants, I also urge you again to go deep in your study guides and read also and understand measures which farmers should take to conserve their pastures. So there are many measures, or there are many different or actions that farmers normally takes in order to preserve their pastures. For example, we have this hay making or silages and other fodder production methods that a farmer can use in order to conserve their pastures. So I want you to go back to your study guides and look at these measures in details in order to prepare yourself for the upcoming examinations. I also want us to look at the risk factors to food securities in Namibia. But before we look at this, I want us to look at what food security is. When we are talking about food securities, we are referring to the availabilities and affordabilities or the accessibilities of food to all. So that's what normally basically we refer to what food security is. But however, we have some risk factors to food securities in Namibia. For example, one of the risk factors here is the natural attributes. As we all know that Namibia is a semi-arid country with low rainfalls and higher temperatures, and therefore higher evaporation water losses. So just about 34% of the country receive more than 400 millimeters of rain annually. Inputs available and affordabilities. Food supply is also being affected by a number of factors, including low crop yields, rising input costs, for example, energies and fertilizers, which are not sometimes that are not sufficient. So another factor is the land tenures and land size holdings. And this is due to increasing scarcity of land, competing demand for fresh water, loss of farmland for housing and industry, competing use of land and food grains for biofuel. A huge obstacle to the much needed expansions on food production is the incentive to grow crops for biofuels. And then the investments and appropriate technologies. For example, the low levels and slow pace of investments in agricultural technology, infrastructure, processing facilities, and not least agricultural research and development. So lack of technologies or lack of investing in proper technologies is also a big risk factor to food securities in Namibia. But when we have advanced technologies in farming or in growing crops, so this will increase or it will improve the food productions in the country. And then we also look at the climate change, which is also a big challenge. Yet another factor that influences the ability of Namibia to produce enough food is these extreme weather events like flooding in the northern regions. Then also the northern communal areas, as well as increasing water stress since the country is largely semi-arid to arid. In many areas, climate change is multiplying these challenges without action to increase the supply of food. Thousands of people could fall below $1.25 a day extreme poverty line in the near future. Now also, the land degradation is also another issue that will contribute to the food securities in Namibia, or is another risk factor to food security in Namibia. So we have severe degradation that has taken place in many places, resulting in huge open lands popularity, known as Oceania, as a result of wide or water erosions. Overgrazings or chemical pollution in some cases. Desertification is widespread across the breadth and length of Namibia. And to this, it has made it difficult for people to produce or to farm in our regions. And apart from these factors again, I would like you, or I'm encouraging you also, to study the criteria that are considered desirable for any soil or water conservation technology in Namibia. Let us also look at another crucial aspect in these modules, which is concerning about taking care of animals. And this crucial aspect is now the suitable housing or shelter for animals. It's very important to take care of animals or to make sure that our animals have proper housings. Now, the main reason to proper housing is to shield the animals from adverse environmental factors like temperatures or direct sunlight, or from wind or dust, rain, and diseases. So when you have a proper housing, or when animals are kept in a proper house, then they will not be vulnerable to this type of environmental factors like temperatures or sunlight, dust, and diseases. So another reason of proper housing is to shield animals from predators and thieves. Allow normal physiological and behavioral needs of the animals, including urinations and defecations, maintenance of body temperatures, normal movements and postural adjustments, and reproductions. Suitable housing also allows specific social interactions and developments of hierarchies within or between enclosures in a group of animals. So the animals will be able to mingle among themselves or with each others in a proper housings. It also makes it possible for the animals to remain clean and dry. Proper housing also provide and allow adequate ventilations, because animals also need proper air circulations within or among themselves. So suitable houses or proper housings, it also provide easy access to food, water, and permit easy feeding, refilling, changing, servicing, and cleaning of feed and water utensils. And also, it also protects animals from escaping. When you have proper housings, it will not allow animals to escape or to run away from the farm. It also allows observation of animals within minimal disturbance. So it makes it easy for the farmer to look closely to the animals and observe any abnormalities on the animals. So apart from these criteria, I would also like you to go back to your study guide and read and understand how to create a bully-free environment at schools. As we all know that bully or students might also be bullying each other at school, and it's another challenges at school, more especially to the new learners in schools. But you as a teacher, I want you to understand this. How do you go about it in order to create a bully-free environment at school, in order to avoid havoc and chaos in the school environment? Let us look at another crucial aspect in these modules, which is now the soil erosions. Soil erosions will refer to the removal of soils is either by water or by wind. And we have some effects of soil erosions on agricultural lands. Because soil erosions is not really that good, it has some effect on agricultural land, of which we depend on for productions. So erosions, it deprives plants of nutrients. As we all know that the moment now this water or heavy winds washes away or removes these soils, so a lot of nutrients are being washed away or removed or blown away by the winds from the soil. Erosion also causes too much surface runoff of water when the rain falls, so that there is very little percolation into the soil for normal plant life. So there will be only a little of water that will penetrate or absorbed in the soils. So it will make it difficult for the plant also to absorb this type of water, for the plant to be able to live a normal life. So soil erosion also causes the following. Soil erosion, it causes forest clearings or deforestation. And also it causes forest fires, mining activities. This type of activities is what causes soil erosions. When you are cutting down trees, or when the forest has been consumed or by accident attacked by fire, and then there will be no more trees available, and then now the environment become vulnerable to soil erosions. Mining activities are also one of the causes of or factors that will contribute to soil erosions. Overstockings, increasing grazing pressure, resulting in overgrazing, and this is in turn degrade the rangelands. That's why it's very important for farmers to control the numbers of farming animals that they will keep on their farms. Because if you keep a lot of animals or more animals, that will result in overgrazing, and then at the end of the day, this will cause soil erosion. Let us look at the measures that one needs to look at when working with toxic materials in the field. Measures, we are referring to some actions that one have to take or to be careful of when you are working with those toxic materials in the field. When we are talking about toxic materials in the field, we are referring to chemicals, for example, or pesticides or some fertilizers that might be harmful to people that are handling them in the field. Now, here is a snapshot of key points to remember when you are dealing with this type of toxic materials in the field. So you need to learn properly or proper safety precaution before or also during and after pesticide application. In most cases, on those pesticide containers, it's good for you to read and be aware of those safety procedures or precautions that you need to take before you apply the pesticide or the herbicide or any other chemical fertilizers to the crops or in the field. And you also need to understand the importance of cleanup measures when you use those chemicals or the pesticides. So you have to understand the importance of cleaning up maybe the residues of those pesticides. Otherwise, they will also become a problem to the soils. Understand the need for personal protective equipment, and also you have to understand and be licensed to operate machineries, because some machines also you need to be authorized, you need to be properly trained on how to use some certain equipments or those machines that you use maybe to apply those pesticides. Otherwise, if not properly handled, will cause or become danger to an operator. And you also need to be aware of higher voltage lines and take necessary precautions to avoid fatal electric shocks. Many people on farms have died from electrical shocks when they are moving irrigation pipes. So this is a very serious case that one have to take serious about. With the use of chemical, always read the label on the container before you begin to use the agricultural chemicals. I have already mentioned this one area, that it's very important to read on the containers the basic instructions or the supplier's instructions or the manufacturer's instructions on the containers before you use that chemical or toxic materials. And make sure that you understand everything you need to know about the pesticide ahead of time so that you are a responsible user. Carefully follow all the directions and precautionary advice on the label. Carelessness in transporting chemicals can result in broken containers, spills, and contaminations. The safest way to carry chemicals is in the back of a truck. And it's also important to understand not to combine or not to mix chemicals, because sometimes they can cause an explosions. It's very important to know how to handle chemicals, which type of chemicals should be stored together with what type of chemicals in order to avoid unnecessary explosions on your vehicles. Children must never be allowed to ride on or near pesticides and herbicides, and never transport groceries or livestock feed near pesticide and herbicide, as this might contaminate animal feed and it will become a hazard to the animals. Now let us look at how to maintain order in the classroom, because this is also one of the challenges to many teachers when they are teaching or when it's come to handling learners. So we know learners are very funny and they can behave in a negative ways, but it's very much important for a teacher to be able to maintain order in your classroom. And it's also important for a teacher to understand sometimes why students misbehave during the classrooms, because students do not just behave anyhow. There must be some reason why a student or a learner behave a certain way in the classrooms. In most cases, learners behave or misbehave in a classroom because they want just to look for attention seeking. Some learners, they just want to look for attention from the teachers. That's why they just behave in that particular way, just to look for your attention as a teacher. And some learners are just rebellion, or they are just being stubborn, or some learners might have some psychological or physiological risks, or maybe psychological issues, or maybe apathy is one of the problems that students or learners might misbehave during the classrooms, or they just want to challenge the teacher's powers or control, or maybe it's classroom fatigue, or maybe just they feel just tired or lazy. So it's very important you as a teacher as well to make sure that, or to make your learners active during the classrooms in order to avoid this type of behaviors from your learners. And also revenge. Some learners, maybe they want to take revenge on a teacher, or maybe on a certain occasions, and they just want to take revenge on that, and they make it difficult for teachers to maintain orders in the classroom. Some students might be depressed, or maybe if a depressed teachers, or if you are a depressed teachers, you might also affect the behaviors of learners. Unhealthy attitudes about school, or maybe depend on the schools, and then some learners might have a different mindset, or some ideologies about the school itself, and this also causes some learners to misbehave. Or maybe disorganized teachers. If you are a teacher that is disorganized, or that is not well prepared, or that not respect him or herself, some of these things can also contribute to the learners to misbehave in the class, or to undermine you, or to disrespect you, because you yourself, you also not well organized, or you are not respecting yourself. Now, regarding to those misbehaviors of learners in the classrooms, I want us also to look at the guidelines for classrooms management. So each teacher, is a matter of fact, should clearly spell in writing to learners from the first day of class, maybe the rules and procedures expect of them to follow. In addition, there should never be more than 5 simple rules procedures. So as a teacher, you must have some rules, maybe the first days of class. Make it clear to the learners what is expected of them, or what they're supposed to follow. Teachers should also create a pedagogical or maybe an academic environment in which learners feel free to engage the teachers, communicate complaints and suggestions. So make it clear, or allow learners to be free to express themselves when they have issues, either in their academics, or they have issues with another learners, or they have issues with the schools or whatever. So create that platform whereby learners are free to express themselves or to express their feelings. So this will make it easy for you to solve learners' issues, or to maintain orders in your classroom or in your school. Teachers should also keep students enthusiastic and also the inquisitive in the subject matter at hand. The teacher should also try to just treat a learner as a complete human being, worth respecting, and learners will give back in abundance. So it's very important for teachers to not just mistreat learners anyhow, because some teachers, maybe they might just mistreat learners, or they look at learners as just animals. But the moments you look at or you undermine learners, you will make it difficult to deal with them, because they will also make it difficult for you not to be able to control them. Lastly, on this subject, teachers should also avoid the use of antisocial language or blackmail or cautions during the class. So we have to be very careful as teachers on these issues, not to blackmail or not to use some unnecessary languages or maybe violent language towards learners at school. Apart from this, I also want you to go back to your study guide again, so that you can read and understand primary educational behavior modulations approach that increase suitable students' behaviors. So they are there in your study guide. Go to your study guides and look at these modulation approaches that increase a suitable students' behavior. So let us look at compost. What is composting in agriculture? Composting is referred to as the biological decomposition of organic materials, mostly by microorganisms under controlled aerobic conditions, to a relatively stable humus-like materials called compost. Composting can happen in many different ways, using different types of materials or methods, equipments, and scales of operation. Now, the advantage of composting in agriculture, because composting have advantage in agriculture, and it's very important to practice it. So compost is rich in nutrients that are readily available to the plants. So it's like a supplement to the plant, or it provides extra nutrients to the plants. Compost also increases the level of organic matters in the soil, and it also destroys pests and diseases. Rats and mice can nest in thick layers of leaves or mulch. After composting, the carbon-nitrogen ratio is decreased and the rough materials is largely decomposed. By composting, the nutrients and organic matter is preserved and the positive effect lasts much longer. I want you to take this one serious and study the cost involved in water supply to the household or schools. You know, there are costs that are involved when you are trying to supply water, either at your household or at school. So I want you to study those costs and analyze those costs when you want to establish or to supply water to your household or school. So for this, we have come to the end of these modules today for the year 2020. And before I come to the conclusion or to end this, I want to urge you, when you are preparing for your examinations, as I have said earlier, that focus on your study guide, read and understand the contents that are written in your study guide when you are preparing for your exams. And during the examination also, I urge you to read your questions very carefully, more especially when it comes to the terms and terminologies that are used during the examinations. And also pay attention to the marks that are allocated to the questions. And I advise you not to leave any questions blank. Try all your level best and answer the questions. There is no a wrong answer. So just answer according to how you understand that question instead of leaving it blank. Because if you leave it blank, it will be difficult for us to allocate a mark for you. So we have come to an end of this module today. As I said earlier, if you have got any other questions or you don't understand anything in these modules, feel free to contact me, Mr. Abraham Sholongera. I'm your tutor for these modules. You can call me at any time, and I said my cell phone number is 081-4438-360. Thank you and have a good day.